Quit judging me, JR. There. Okay. Good. Okay, take 3 in 3, 2, 1. Boop. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most amazing podcast in the world. We've got Deanna. Yay! We've got Jason. Yay! We've got me. Yay! And we have a very special guest today. He goes by the name of JR Gonzales, but to others, he is known as the chairman of the Hispanic Leadership and Management Foundation and a board member of the Export-Import Bank of the United States Council on Small Business. He serves as the executive vice chair of the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. That's such a long word. TAMACC. We just call it TAMACC. Yeah. As a former chairman and president of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, JR Gonzales established a vast professional network that he continues to grow. He's an international public speaker, professional development instructor, providing media training to influential Hispanics. I promise I'm not drunk, including elected officials and CEOs. He is a dedicated advocate for the Hispanic business community, which is why we got him on the show today, because there is so much going on in the world of DACA, so much going on in the world of everything political. And that's why we have JR, because he is a voice, he is a face, a beautiful face at that. And he also hosts and produces the Latino Business Report podcast, sharing his insights and passion for the community. In this world, we all need a hero. JR is that hero. So please, JR, here's your welcome song. He's fast, he's strong.
Okay, Patrick, thank you for that introduction. I can honestly say I don't think I've ever quite had an introduction like that before. So
only took 3 times.
Thank you, and let's not do it again. But anyway, guys, great to be here on your podcast, Life and In Between. Great name. So I'm here, and let's talk about what we're going to talk about.
Take over, Deanna. I'm spent. I'm done.
Thank you so much. Well,
thank you, Patrick. That was amazing.
Thank you so much. I just want to say it's truly an honor to have you on board. And are we
talking about Patrick, or are you talking about me?
I'm talking about you, JR.
Okay,
I'm talking about you.
Officially jealous now.
No, just for the listeners, FYI edification. Patrick and I have known each other. We met many years ago. But the restraining order has now expired, so that's allows us to do this show.
Actually, what the truth is he found out where I live, so we got to reconnect and talk now.
Sorry, Deanna, go ahead.
It's okay. I mean, there is so much that we want to dive into, and Patrick gave a great introduction. But I want to kind of touch in on your personal journey. You know, you have done so much across, business and the media, and especially in advocacy. But I just want to, take us back of who you were before all this, the JR, before all the titles and the accomplishments. Just want to get a little bit of some of that.
Well, great question. I don't think I've been asked that for who I was before. Not much of anything, really. I was very fortunate. I had 2 great parents who really emphasized education. Mom said mijo, it's when you go to college. It was never, I didn't think I had a choice. It was always when you go, not if you go. Mom was a teacher, which really helped. Dad was in the military. I'd call him sir, and he would say, don't call me sir, I work for a living. He was a non-commissioned officer in the United States Air Force and had that discipline, which really in hindsight, helped me. Growing up, I particularly didn't like all that discipline, but moved around a little bit in early years in military bases, and then it was I was kind of a shy kid at one point. When Dad would get transferred, I'd have to go overseas, and then you had mom influence and no dad influence, and it got to a point where at one point I was just very insecure with a lot of stuff, and I won't admit it very often, but I mean, in 5th grade, even a girl beat me up. I mean, it was embarrassing. So it wasn't until junior high when I started evolving and getting a little tougher, because I went to a place called Fulmore Junior High in Austin, Texas. And I liked eating lunch. And when I'd go to the restroom, I tried to hold it as long as I could, but you end up in the restroom, they'd jump you for your lunch money. So started getting a little tougher then. And so it was an interesting journey, but it wasn't until high school, I think, that I started evolving and coming into my own thanks to a lot of good teachers, good educators that saw the potential in me instead of the bad in me. So I was very fortunate to have had some good teachers, some good mentors, and realization and loving parents that just said, hey, it's when you go to college. Like I said, I didn't think I had a choice. So before I got involved in everything, I was just a normal little kid that was out there, spent a lot of alone time, not because I didn't have friends. It's just that I preferred it because I thought the rest of the kids were just idiots. So let me do my thing, do it at my pace, and try to enjoy life and figure things out on my own.
Wow. It's amazing.
Do you think that kind of bullying that you went through, did that kind of shape your humor and your personality a bit?
I don't think so, but I'm not as afraid of women as I was back in 5th grade. I've grown a little bit. I figure, okay, come on, I'll take you on. 2 out of 3 falls. We got it. No, it was just one of those things. My dad was overseas. It was a difficult time, and we're talking back in the 70s. And it was just a weird time. In the Vietnam War was going. In Vietnam, when I was growing up, Vietnam War was still going on. The protests, the 1968 Democratic Convention. I mean, it was a crazy time. I was talking to a group of college students not too long ago in San Antonio, and we were recapping some stuff, and I was recapping some historical things. And one of the young ladies in the cohort goes, "Mr. Gonzales, are you a history professor?" And I go, "No, why do you ask?" Because you seem to know so much about history. I go, "Well, you call it history. I call it my childhood."
Yeah.
So I'm just old. I'm just old. But growing up in the 60s and 70s definitely had an impact. I mean, you had the greatest generation. I kind of think we're the best generation, and we didn't have all these things. We drank water out of the faucets and the hoses. We didn't wear helmets. We spread we spread lead paint on our sandwiches, for flavor.
That explains so much.
Well, what probably explains a lot is living on a military base during the summer. They'd come in and spray. And some of you that are older may remember this because they did in a lot of neighborhoods. They'd spray DDT to kill the mosquitoes. And me and my friends used to chase the DDT truck, playing soldier, playing whatever. And I think I might have inhaled a little too much DDT as a child. So maybe that had an effect on me. But
you changed Patrick, your own DNA. Wow.
Yeah, thank you for asking such a probing question.
That was Deanna. My questions are superficial. Like, if you were a wrestler, JR, what would your name be? A luchador.
Let me get back to you on that one. We're going to do a focus group and get back on that.
The tomahawk. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Jason, you've been mighty quiet. Let's hear from you, sir.
It's crazy, to hear you growing up in those years, and me born in mid 70s. I only know my uncle who came from Vietnam War, and oh man, it was pretty tough. That's all I can remember from my uncle because of my cousin being reflected from that.
You were born when?
I was born in 74.
74. You look familiar. Who's your mom?
Well, my mom.
Never mind.
Like dad.
I know. It's like
just checking. You just never mind.
But yeah, just knowing that part. I mean, growing up with your dad. I mean, was it tough? I mean, I know the discipline and everything, but my uncle. I mean, flashbacks. The dreams and everything. Waking up. Just. It was mad.
Yeah, fortunately, my dad didn't go through any of that. He actually got pretty lucky because back then you didn't have much of a choice. At one point in the latter part of his military career, he was the NCOIC of the dining hall. He was a non-commissioned officer in charge, and I thought it was a pretty cool job, But what really gave it a break is that when LBJ came into office, Berkshire Air Force Base in Austin was the closest military installation to the LBJ Ranch. Oh, wow. So it was my dad and 2 other top sergeants, with all this top secret security clearance. would go to the ranch every time and help prepare the meals, the daily meals for LBJ and, the family or whatever group he had over there.
Yes.
So, and then he would get invitations, him and my mom would get invitations to some of the big Christmas dinners or dinners they would have out there. It was an experience. In fact, LBJ was the very first president I met. I've been very fortunate. To date, I have met 6 U.S. presidents and 3 presidents from Mexico and a bunch of presidents from different countries around the world. But the LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Air Force One landed out of Bergstrom. He was walking the rope line, which was truly a rope line back then. That was it. It was just a little red kind of velvet type rope. And he was walking down, very friendly guy, tall guy. I mean, he was tall. And he saw my dad, and he stopped and said, "Hello, this is Gonzales. How are you doing?" His Spanish wasn't bad. And my dad introduced me, my mother to him. And then he looked down at me and said, is this your son? And he goes, "Yes, sir, Mr. President." And he just stopped and he squatted down. I mean, he got to my level and talked to me. And I was like, holy moly. I mean, that was like my first experience or my first contact with, I won't say it was stardom or I mean, just influence, power. I was at the threshold of power. And after a short conversation, he stood up and he started walking away. And the president turns around and says, texts my dad, he says, "Hey, Gonzales, have you ever taken the family out to the ranch for a tour where Secret Service gives you a tour of the ranch?" He goes, No, sir, we have not done that." And he goes, "Okay, let's make sure that happens." And he started to walk away, and the president stopped and looked back and says, "Gonzales, that's not a request." So next weekend, whole family packed up, and we were at the ranch, and we got a VIP tour, and we saw the 3 televisions he was famous for because he had to have the news on. He had to have all 3 stations on at the same time to see what news was going on, and he had his little news ticker tape thing coming in there as he did in the White House. But he was an interesting president, and I ended up graduated from Texas State University, which at the time was, when I went, was Southwest Texas State, and when LBJ went, it was Normal College. So I got to learn a little bit more about him later on. I've read several books on the man. He's just a very interesting character in American history. But one of the things I always appreciated about LBJ is his tenacity and determination to feel that even dead people in his district should vote for him. So that happened a few times. Wow. But that's another story. But
that's all. Is that when the seed was planted for JR to get into the political?
No, I don't think that's when the seed was planted. That would have been
a good backstory.
That would have been. It was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I mean, he had a cool plane. I mean, a foreign country didn't give him the plane, but that's another story too. But he had, Air Force One was cool. I used to, living on a military base, an Air Force base. They'd have air shows quite often, so I always got a kick out of air shows. And to this day, I still love aviation, especially World War II aircraft. And I've actually have had the honor to not only fly in World War II aircraft, but actually have the stick and pilot some of those old birds. I mean, they're amazing pieces of machinery.
That's cool. That's amazing. You'll get a kick out of this. Oh, sorry, Deanna.
Go ahead.
Oh, real quick, I'll throw this out there. You'll get a kick out of this, JR, then. So my grandpa flew, I think, the B-17 Fortress, the little bubble
the turret.
Yeah, the turret. So that's where my grandpa was in World War II. And then after Vietnam, when my dad came back, he worked at the National Guard Armory area right outside of Bergstrom in the aviation helicopter mechanic.
Okay.
So he worked on the helicopter that put the Statue of Liberty up there back in the 80s, the new one.
Oh, on the Capitol or?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It looked like the grasshopper.
I was actually there at that event to watch their feeble try. I mean, they tried multiple times and they had to cancel and reschedule, but I was there watching Lady Liberty go back on top of the Texas State Capitol. So I'll be darned. Small world.
I know. See, our story goes way back. This is when you were not the arch villain you are today, but
and it's called the B-17 Super Fortress.
Super Fortress. There you go.
And it was a turret, not a little bubble.
Turret. I haven't had coffee. I only had 1 cup. So to all of my World War II historians out there, forgive me. I repent.
Don't apologize. Just don't make the mistake. Don't make the same mistake.
Fine.
Okay. Deanna, you had a question for Patrick
I
interrupted you.
did. I
All right,
guess it
Deanna.
was some. I actually did have a question. I mean, since you have such a wonderful, rich history of the childhood and everything that, but I wanted to kind of focus in on what was, if you had one, because some people do have those defining moments that knew this is what I want to do. This is exactly where I want to go. Did you have that, or what shaped you into moving into what you do today?
I think there's a lot of variables that shape me into what I'm doing today, but there's like one defining moment when I was in school over at Southwest Texas State at the time. I worked my way through school. My parents did not have a whole lot of money. They helped me my first semester of my freshman year, and after that, Mijo, you're on your own. Okay. So student loans, working spring break, working during the summers, doing whatever to make tuition and books. And I got a great job working with some folks. I kind of knew people back then too. So through the local chamber of commerce, I got a great working at a construction company as an electrician's helper. And folks, I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was good money back then. I was making $5 an hour. $5 an hour, hard hat, safety glasses, long sleeve shirt, blue jeans, steel toed boots, working in the summer sun, hitting temperatures 105, 107 degrees, and that was brutal. It was brutal heat. And part of my job is that for a while there, I had a 90-pound jackhammer in my hand, digging through the rock for underground runs of conduit. But the point came as we're all on a work bus, because we'd park in a location, a work bus would take us to and from. And after a hard day at work, you didn't really want to drive. And back then, saving gas, everything helped. But the work bus took a detour that day, and they were going by Sewell Park, which goes right through the middle of San Marcos. It's a river that on university campus that is just loaded with recreation. I mean, there's students and co-eds. I mean, every place. So I'm sitting in a bus, no air conditioning, long day, grimy, dirty, sweating. It's smoldering inside that bus. I look out the window as the bus drives by, and I see these guys playing hacky sack. I see these co-eds sitting there laying out in the sun. I see the inner tubers going down, drinking a cool beer. And I said, this is it. Why am I working so hard? I was ready to quit school.
Yeah.
Then when I saw that scene and it played out in my head, an epiphany just hit. I kind of like changed my entire way of thinking, and I think it just kind of got me on the trajectory that I needed to do. It was the way I was thinking of it. I was thinking, poor me, I'm having to work so hard. I don't get any breaks every weekend, every summer, every spring break. I'm having to work to pay for college. But when I saw that scene and I noticed that we had these people laying out in the sun, studying their Spanish books, I go, wait a minute. They're laying out in the sun, studying their Spanish books, and trying to get brown. Okay, I already got that. That's handled for me. I don't need to study my Spanish book. I'm already brown, so let's get that one. And I kind of went down this mental checklist, and I go, well, hell, I'm doing okay. I had a lot of these guys. So it just changed it, and there was that way of thinking that was looking at what a lot of people looked at, negatives or obstacles I looked at as challenges, and other times say, you know what, no big deal. Got that one handled. So I think that was a defining moment. And then I think early on, another defining moment would be my freshman year in high school.
Okay.
I came out of, keep in mind, remember, I was in a lot of fights in junior high. So I came to Crockett High School in Austin, Texas, with an office record a mile long. I mean, today I would have been considered an at-risk child. And so it was sitting in a speech class one time. It was mandatory classes you had to take. And the teacher said, John, I want to see you after class. Susie, I want to see you after class. Diane, I want to see you after class. And then I'm just looking around and go, hey, teach, yo, how about me? And she looked at me, what? And she says, you want to see me after class? And this look of pain came upon her face, and she's going, okay, see you after class.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay. I was just kind of curious of what was going on.
Yeah.
And what she was doing is she was putting together a squad to compete in UIL speech competition, forensic speech competition. And she goes, well, there's a speech UIL speech festival going on in a couple of months, and we want to see if you guys would be interested in participating and competing. And I'm going, what the hell's UIL? What's a speech festival? And so I tried it, and I did pretty well. And I think that got me on my path of public speaking and my comfort level. So I competed in high school, and then I ended up actually getting one of my minor is in speech communications, and out of Texas State University with a major in journalism, public relations, advertising. And so that was pivotal. And it was the teacher that just kind of took a chance on me, because at the point, no other teacher wanted to touch me, because this is nothing but a troublemaker. And keep in mind, I went to a school that had a population of about 3,500, and there was only about 200 of us, if that much, with quote unquote Spanish surnames. That's what they call us. We had Spanish surnames. And so there's only about 90 African American students that got bussed in, less than 200 Hispanic students. The others were just good old boy rednecks. And that was kind of interesting, adapting, but overcame it, got through it, played high school football. Well, I was on the team. I spent a lot of time on the bench, but I was out there in high school football. Ended up being student council president, which, Patrick, to your question, that probably helped guide a little bit. Ran the student council, who's who, all that extracurricular stuff that you see attached to high school. So I actually enjoyed high school. It was a good time for me. Wow. But I think that moment in high school, where the teacher said, we're going to take a chance on you. And then in college, when I was just ready to literally drop out of school and go to work, making $5 an hour full time, then I said, no, we're going to stick it out. So it was. I think those are two pivotal points in my life that made a difference.
Boom, mic drop. What? Brown, ready to get down. You created your own path. You had curiosity, opened the doors. They took a chance on you. And now we need to get t-shirts made with your
well, and then as far as the entrepreneur thing, one of the things I learned working as an electrician's helper, they had a motto that says work smarter, not harder. And I kind of took that to heart. So about my senior year, a junior and senior year, I ended up starting a company. So I actually ran, we called it Godfather and Associates. And all the employees dressed up as 1920s, like 30 style gangsters, Al Capone dress, the fedora hats, violin cases, all that. And we did singing telegrams. We did singing telegrams, pie in the eye gags. We did parties. We did any number of things. And so I actually helped pay for 2 semesters of college by managing a singing telegram company. And it was kind of new. People liked it. I probably charged too much, but what was too much, whatever the market would bear. Mm-hmm. And my people got paid, and I got a paycheck to help pay the rent.
Yeah, Lee.
That is awesome.
Who thinks like that?
Can you sing something for us? Come on.
So
I think I know what it was, JR. The way you've been able to move like that, I know what could have stopped you. Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, any of those. I mean, come on.
Okay. Now, well, that's a good point. That could have stopped me, but Jason, I assume I could afford that stuff. I couldn't even afford that stuff, much less do it. And as far as the arcade games of sticking a quarter in there, I go, those quarters add up real quick. Forget that nonsense. That's for somebody else. But no, it was interesting. And then later on in life, of course, I started a business, public relations advertising firm, and that was an interesting genesis of that company as well. So it was a life of taking chances. It was a life of a few of those chances did not work out very well. So if anybody is in the market for strapless sandals that stick to the bottom of your feet that are washable, I still have a warehouse of a couple of thousand of those that never moved. But lessons learned. Not everything works, but it's a matter of getting what works and moving forward and knowing that if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But
somewhere I think I read where if you had to being an entrepreneur, trying to get into business, you never give up, and you have to do I don't know, anywhere from 18 to 30 something attempts of failing, starting a job, and you eventually be successful there because of all the experiences of failing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I was early on. I was very fortunate, and I'd be interviewed by some folks who said, "Well, Jared, what do you contribute your success to?" And I'm going, "Success? I don't even consider myself successful." It's just a matter of, well, why did you persevere? Why did you keep going?
Yeah.
Was it the determination? Was it you knew you could make it? And my standard answer was actually my truthful answer was, it's just, I'm just too stupid to quit.
Oh.
I was kind of I'm already doing this. So,
Yeah.
so you hit a bump, you lose, you make a lot of money, you lose a lot of money. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
But we went through it. And like I said, at times I made a lot, lost a lot. Right now I'm kind of in between, but my focus is not on making money. It's on doing what I enjoy doing. And I'm one of those people that believe that by doing what you love doing, well, let me rephrase that. Money should be a byproduct of doing what you love doing. And I love what I'm doing, but the byproduct hasn't really come in like I would like it to, but we're still working on that. I'm not going to give up. We're just going to keep on going. So, what I'm doing today, I thoroughly enjoy. I have a passion for, and there's days that it's, there's days that my time is compensated well. There's days that it's just racking up the volunteer time. But either if it's a paid gig or a volunteer gig, I still put the same energy and emphasis into it.
Well, JR, and you're saying, the stuff in between, and I'm hearing this is where I think this question fits in. Was there ever this sucks moment, now what? A moment in your life that forced a major shift and awakening? And I think maybe this is where this is happening, where we all experience this. Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
Okay.
I'm determined. I have some ideas, and I think they're going to work.
Okay.
But I also recognize the fact, as you said earlier, Jason, is that sometimes you have to keep at it. So I got a basic foundation of a couple of things that are working, that I think they're going to work. I have a vision for them. Other people may not see my vision yet, but once they do, I think they're not only going to want to be a part of it and support it, but I'll be able to raise some revenue and some capital on it as well. One of the things that I have a passion for, and congratulations, Ms. Gonzales, it's Gonzales is your maiden name. Your last name, your Leber?
Leiboob.
¿Cómo?
Leiboob.
Leiboob. Okay, let's call it Diana. Diana.
Just think of lay and then boob. Leiboob.
Wait, I thought this was a family show. We can't be talking. Cochina. Okay. No boobs. We started a program called Leadership Texas, and this has been a vision of mine for a while. We're going to get it going during the pandemic. The pandemic hit. One thing led to another. But we're in the second class. Leadership Texas is a statewide leadership program. It's not a program for people who want to be leaders. It's not a program for people waking up and go, hey, I want to take a Leadership 101 class. These are for people that are proven leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, community activists that already have a track record. We get them, we put them together, we get them in a room, and it's a 6-month program. It's a Friday and a Saturday, once a month for 6 months. We also have a virtual training in between, and every time we meet in a different part of the state. Wow. And we also combine it with what I refer to as adventure learning. For example, at one of the classes last year, we went down to Del Rio, Texas. We met with the Consul General in Mexico, the Consul General of Guatemala. We talked about border issues. We talked about immigration. We talked about manufacturing, tariffs, the whole bit. Then we met with the district chief of the Border Patrol and gave us all the stats and numbers of things coming over. We met with the mayor. We met with the city manager. We met with everybody. We had some great Mexican food. Over there at Julio's, the guy that makes the chips and the hot sauce, which is really good stuff. And that was in Del Rio, Texas. But then at Saturday morning, we got up at 5 a.m., checked out of the hotel, drove to Eagle Pass, right, hired an outfitter, and the class canoed the Rio Grande River. We were in the river for 5 hours, seeing up close, the buoys, the barbed wire, everything going on. You hear about it in the news. You hear about this huge invasion of people coming over, and we're out there on the river going, "He can't what? I don't see no invasion." I saw a cow on the Mexican side. He kind of mooed at me.
That cow's a criminal.
we saw a lot of barbed wire, a lot of things, but it was a good adventure. People said, "We're going to do what?" I go, "Come on, guys, adventure learning." Now, of course, I had everybody sign a waiver before we got on there. Had my attorneys give me airtight waiver, guys. But there was no incidents on the river except mine. My canoe decided to flip over. Yeah, but I look at it this way. I felt that was a act of helping international relations, because as I flipped over, and the rapids kind of took me down the Rio Grande, I noticed people on both sides of the river laughing their ass off. So I felt with both of them, laughter brings comfort, and so that was my part to help international relations is to make people smile, and smile they did, and a few bruises and cuts later, and they finally fished me out of the Rio Grande. It was no wonder the Mexicans call it Rio Bravo, because that river can get nasty sometimes. I tell you what.
See, and I think that's going to be your luchador name, El Rio Bravo.
Rio Bravo.
That's it. That's the backstory. That's the backstory, because you bring countries together because you're powerful. That is so cool. Adventure.
Okay, Patrick. Hey, you might want to tell your wife you try some decaf next time.
No, I need more caffeine. I need more. I want to be like JR.
No, you don't, man. No, you don't. But no, the leadership class is fun. We're starting the second cohort, and Deanna's in the class. Thank you very much for signing up, and we're excited. We're going to have about 18 people going through, and we're planning out. Our first session is going to be at the state capitol, where we're actually going to be meeting in the old Supreme Court Justice courtroom, and we talked to them and letting us use that. Then we're going to go over to some other judges' quarters the following day. And then we're going to do a tour of the Bob Bullock Texas History Museum, and get assignments and trying to tie in Texas history to recognize the importance of Latino and Tejano culture and what it's actually done to form this country, not only the state but the country, because we've had a huge influence.
That's beautiful.
And if somebody wants to find out about is there a website, or how could they find out?
They can go to Leadership Tejas, and that's not Texas, Tejas, TEJAS.org. And all the information will be there. For example, and here's something very, very simple. I use this in a lot of my speaking engagements. When we're talking about the fact that, people going, "Oh, we don't need all these folks here. They need to go back where they come from." We were here. We were here first. Nobody discovered Texas. We had Mexicans and indigenous people here already. We had Tejanos here. We were here, guys. You didn't discover us. But then too, some of my redneck friends. I love my redneck brothers and sisters, with their little cowboy hats and their saddles, and they chew that tobacco and want to call you all kinds of names, give you a hard time. And I go, "You blankety blank redneck drugstore cowboy." I go, "Do you think horses came over on the Mayflower? No. It was the Spanish conquistadores that brought them into Mexico. And as the herd started growing, it was the vaqueros that learned how to become horsemen. And it was the vaqueros that taught Stephen F. Austin and all these little other white people coming into Texas how to be cowboys. When they arrived in Texas, they were still riding them little English sissy saddles. They didn't know anything about herding cattle and rounding up horses. So it was us. I mean, like rodeo, that's an English word, okay? But the whole influence of the American cowboy. Well, the American cowboy actually started off as the Mexican vaquero that taught the white settlers how to be cowboys. Mm-hmm. So I mean, Latino history. I mean, in the tapestry of the state in America, it is woven in there so tight. A lot of people forget it. Or they want to ignore it, or we go into this whole DEI thing or anti-immigration or everything else, trying to, no pun intended, but whitewash history, and that, like we didn't exist. It's kind of like, come on, guys, we were here. So you don't want anything special. Just acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. For example, right now in the state of Texas, The state of Texas, according to the last census, and I believe it happened before, the largest population in Texas are going to be Hispanics, with over 40% of the Texas population being Hispanic, and 38 or 39% of the population of the state is going to be non-Hispanic whites. So Hispanic population has increased, has surpassed the white population, and in fact, Texas has been a minority majority state since 2014.
What?
But if you look at you heard me, since 2014. But if you look at our legislators, you look at city councils, you look at a lot of stuff across state, it does not reflect the fact that Texas has such a large Hispanic population. And that's one of the reasons for Leadership Tejas is we're trying to get people prepared, not to necessarily go into politics, but to chase their dreams and their passions in leadership. And some of them are going to go on to run for public office, and that's why we do the training. We'll do training. We do public speaking. We do media training. We do all kinds of things necessary to help them prepare to be able to be good leaders in their community. Because we do, as Latinos, we don't have enough voice. We don't have a seat at the table like we should. When they used to tell me, I thought the seat at the table is who got the fresh tortillas coming out and didn't have to sit at the kids' table. You got to sit at the big table. But it's just that we have the population, we have the wherewithal. We have a buying power of like no. I think last time I looked at like $4.1 trillion buying power.
What?
Okay. Jason's freaking out on me over there. Okay, Jason. Well, let me put this in perspective. If you were to get every Latino, every Hispanic in the U.S., and if we were to be our own country, we'd be the 5th largest GDP in the world. That's how much buying power we have. We also have the population. The population is continuing to grow. And as people go, there's just too many Mexicans, there's too many Hispanics, there's too many this. You know what? This is what I say to, with respect, as far as the non-Hispanic whites, it's like, according to the Census Bureau, you guys have plummeted in birth rate. I mean, birth rates just dropped. I mean, it's like you guys, you're watching too much late night television. You're not making babies. You're not producing the population. So don't blame us.
What?
In fact,
go ahead.
Okay, one more. Okay, Jason's got his mind blown again. Between the years 2020 and 2030, the decade we're in right now, 2020 and 2030, studies show that 78% of all new hires coming into the market are going to be Hispanic. 78% of new hires. As far as non-Hispanic white, and I say just for the audience and for people who may not understand, when I refer to non-Hispanic whites, it's that Hispanic is not a race. I mean, Hispanic is a classification. We are white. I mean, my birth certificate says white, and just about every, so Hispanics are considered by the Census Bureau white, but it wasn't the term Hispanic is not even a Spanish word. Right. This term Hispanic was coined in the 80s. It was during the Reagan administration when Reagan said, look, we got a group of people here that are growing fast. We're going to have to do something. What do we call them? What do we look? How do we look at them? How do we deal with it?
Awesome.
And so that's when we got the label Hispanics, and that's when they started keeping data.
Yeah.
And then and the growth has occurred, and we're probably going to grow probably double in size one more time before we plateau off. But between 2000 and 2010, 57% of this country's population growth was directly due to the Hispanic population. Between 2010 2020, 51% of this country's population growth was due to Hispanics. What the next decade, this decade has in store, I don't know, but it can continue to grow, and then it'll plateau off when we're about 28% of the overall population of the country. Where the next largest group, African American, they have plateaued off years ago, and they're going to stay about 12-13%. But the fastest growing population in the country per capita right now are going to be Asians. The Asian population is growing even quicker. There's fewer of them. It's they don't have as big as numbers of Hispanic population, but they're growing at a phenomenal rate as well.
Wow. I'll even say this because I think it's so right in our faces now, but this is probably the reason that the administration right now is pushing back so much on people of color. We are becoming the majority.
I saw a meme that cracked me up. It was a photo of all these, these gangbangers, from all these countries, and they had the tattoos, and they just look like a bunch of badasses over there. And the caption read something. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember it. And it says, "This is what they want you to be afraid of." And then under that picture, there's a picture of a bunch of Latino college graduates in their caps and gowns. He goes, "But this is what they're really afraid of." And I thought that was so cool. And you figure it. I mean, let's just go unplugged here, okay?
Mhm.
Who's been who controls the wealth? Who controls the industry? Who controls politics? It's going to be white people, okay? Now, with a growing population, they realize that their population numbers are down. They see the statistics, they see the browning of America, if you will, and it scares the hell out of them. So what do? Well, let's get rid of as many immigrants as we can, as quickly as we can, because they're going to sit there and they're going to have babies and they're going to be U.S. citizens, and then we can't do a damn thing about it. Let's go ahead and start pushing DEI. Let's start working and get rid of the Texas Tuition Act. Let's not let these people go to school. Let's not give them college educations, because they do that, they're going to become educated, they're going to become smarter, they're going to, take over. Well, you know what? It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I mean, even if you were to build a wall today and no other Hispanic were to come into this country, and if you were to get rid of every undocumented person here, it's still going to happen. It may take 10 years longer, but it's going to happen. So, as I do in a lot of my public speeches, I get a kick out of it. I end it, especially to a mostly white audience, business group of people. I'll go, look, in the years 2025, chances are, a Hispanic. You are good friends with one. You may even live next door to a Hispanic. But you know what? In the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to be related to one of us.
Yes.
So hide your daughters. We're coming.
Hide your daughters, hide your boyfriends.
Hide them. Hide them. You're going to end up being related to one of us.
All dark and handsome is coming for y'all.
Hide your husbands, hide your wives.
It's inevitable. So
that's our setup. I got my white wife, wonderful woman, and it's like she's now a Bettis, and people are like, oh wait, she's white. Like, nope, she's a Bettis. So
and then you have a Gonzales that's laying with boobs, or what was? Sorry, Dan, I'm sorry.
Lay boob.
Lay boob. Okay, don't.
This is what happens when it's a testosterone-filled room. Oh.
What is the in French or the in Spanish? La boob, le boob, the boob.
I'm going to keep this clean. I could say so many different things. We're just next question. Thank you for asking that.
No, this is like what we all just say, like "Viva, Viva." I mean, it's so crazy. It's like people don't see that it is the whitewashing, and I'll even throw this out here: the segregation in Austin. I mean, going back to the '60s and '70s, how they used
go beyond that. I mean, not only the segregation, because actually, where Rainey Street is, right there north of the river, that whole area that's developing, that used to be the Mexican part of town. And then as the city started growing, then they said, okay, let's go ahead and move them east of the highway. Then East Austin became the Mexican, part of town for several generations. And now with gentrification and all the Californian people coming in and moving and taking over that, a lot of those people can't even afford the taxes to live there anymore. Mm-hmm. So they've been forced to move out. I mean, it's a constant, those with wealth, those with money are pushing out those without. And it's just a shame that, and there's a lot of factors that cause it, but the minority population usually gets pushed out. And we're seeing in Austin, Texas, we see it. I'm sure it's true in a lot of other cities. Is the gentrification of Latino or Black or Asian communities, of the expansion, and people are just kind of pushing them out and taking over their homes and their property. It's sad, but it's a reality, and that's why it's so important. Like this Leadership Tejas program is, and Deanna, to your point, we need to be a voice. We need to organize. We have the numbers, we have the voting power, we have the financial wherewithal. If we just get it together and work together. But do it in a smarter way than has been done to us. I always say we need to work together and be inclusive, and don't be guilty of the same things that people who have persecute us. Because there's a lot of bigotry out there. There's a lot of just hate, and it's reared its head here as of late, and people are feeling more and more comfortable to express it. It's more overt, and I'm just afraid that this country is it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It needs to get better. I mean, whatever happened to civility? Whatever happened to, friendly discourse? You don't have to agree with somebody, but let's talk about it. You don't have to be throwing rocks or yelling at them or calling them names or threatening to threatening violence on them. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And another thing, when we're talking about the whole immigration situation, if I may, we have a situation where this country already has a workforce shortage. And they're going, well, we're going to deport 11 million Hispanics. Well, those 11 million, for the vast majority of them, they're here. They're established. They're working. They're adding to the economy. They're taking essential jobs. They're adding to the tax base. And you want to take 11 million, people out of the workforce. That's going to leave us with a larger work shortage. Then you have the White House going, well, we want to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. We're going to put all these tariffs. We're going to force the companies to bring their plants back to the U.S. and start manufacturing here. Well, that sounds great, but who's gonna be the workers? Yeah. If we have a worker shortage, exactly. I mean, I went through a Panda Express, and I was very pleased. Well, I was kind of pleased because the person would never get my order right, but it was AI. The order was taken. It was an AI voice, and they come in and get my order, and it came on the screen. Please check this was correct. Hey, it's correct. I got my order right. I got my little extra soy sauce that I wanted. It was nice, but with AI, there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be lost. It's a continuous change. But some of those essential workers that Latinos have filled a role. I mean, I don't know of any other group of people in this country that are going to go out in the fields and do that backbreaking labor to put food on the table like the Latino community. Work in the slaughterhouses, do some of the stuff. Is it very glamorous or sexy type of work? No, but it's essential, and we cannot operate this economy without it. And these are good people, hardworking people that are trying to do that. Do we have our criminals? Yeah, of course we do. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
But what really pisses me off is when I'm watching the news and I'm seeing all these brown people in handcuffs and orange jumpsuits being loaded up into airplanes and being shipped off somewhere. If that visual is constant on TV, our kids are going to be seeing that. People are seeing that. And all of a sudden, anybody with brown skin that looks unshaven and probably like they're not from here, like Patrick, they're gonna make some assumptions,
Yeah, that's it.
I had a guy kidding me the other day. He was kidding, but he was still kind of being a jerk about it. He goes, "Hey, JR, where's your green card?" And I reached into my wallet. I pulled out. She says, "Here it is, you blankety blank. It says American Express. There's my green card, God dang it." So, but it's if people get away with it, more people do it. Some people are just ignorant. A lot of people are just they're very sheepish in their thinking. Let's just follow who's ever leading, and they don't want to think for themselves. And then the people that get their news and information from Facebook or whatever. I mean, research it, go a little bit further, and get the true story. Make up your own mind of what's going on. Don't be a follower. But we're in that time. If you look at it, I mean, we had McCarthyism, yes. We had a lot of other stuff, and then people go, "Well, Jared, it's the rule of law. It's the rule of law." And I go, well, you know what? Enslavement of people was a law. Suffrage was a law. Mandatory internment of Japanese Americans in World War II was a law. Mixed racial marriages was against the law.
Yeah.
Laws can be wrong. Mm-hmm. So we just have to look at, there's laws right now. The immigration system needs to be completely revamped. It needs to work for us and not against us. Yeah. And right now, it's just an excuse to throw, in my opinion, a bunch of people of color out of the country. Unless you're from South Africa and white, then that's another story right there. Come on in, yeah. Welcome here, have a house, have a job. My daughter. It's a crazy time. I think history is going to look back, decades from now and just go, that was a sad time in American history. And what the hell were those people thinking back then?
They weren't thinking. That's the problem. They weren't thinking.
They weren't.
All the
They weren't
Bible
thinking.
says.
Somebody else was thinking for us.
Okay, I apologize. I got on a soapbox there. For
Oh
a
no,
little
get
bit.
on that soapbox. I mean, how many mass shooters are Mexicans? How many people that are doing these mass crimes? And it's like, come on, people.
I get a kick out of it. I said, man, you're not going to see no Latino be a mass shooter and commit suicide. No, but we're not going to do something stupid like that. If we're going to do something, there's going to be an exit. We're going to know that exit ahead of time. And it's no. I mean, there's just a lot of craziness. And Pat, to your point, and then statistics will show that in the immigrant communities, Latino in the immigrant community, crime is pretty much okay because they do a lot of self-policing. But when ICE comes in and a lot of this other stuff, then they're afraid to report what's going on to law enforcement, and the crime becomes worse. So actually, by putting law enforcement into some of these communities and these ICE raids and everything, it just makes it makes the crimes worse in that community than better. Mm-hmm. And the other point I want to make, and I'll shut up on this subject, is that, they're just deporting the criminals. Oh my God, give me a break. The majority of the deportations that are happening in this country today are not because of criminal records or violent acts or crimes. They're happening because somebody had a traffic violation. Their taillight was out. They took a left, they took a right when the sign said no, or they were speeding or whatever. And the fact that once they're identified that they're not from here, then they go, oh, because before it was never. Now it's a crime to be here undocumented. Before it wasn't. So yes, they're a criminal. So now we're going to deport them and put them in an El Salvadorian jail that they'll spend the rest of their life in, because nobody's ever come out of that jail in the history of that jail. I mean, that seems a little harsh.
Oh, man.
So it's crazy. And then some of the laws here in the state legislatures that they're trying to make and pass it's punitive. I was testifying for a bill to keep in-state tuition for Dreamers, where Dreamers and DACA recipients can go to Texas universities and colleges and pay in-state tuition as opposed to out-of-state tuition, which is 3 times as more. And one of the senators was arguing, well, this is just an added incentive for people to come to this country illegally. I go, oh yeah, people are going to take a risk, going to hire a coyote, they're going to cross the border, they're going to do whatever, so they can enroll at the University of Texas. You're right. I mean, come on. I think they get some more basic needs than that. So some of the arguments, and then when I was testifying, trying to this whole anti-DEI thing, someone goes, well, we're concerned about the taxpayers don't feel comfortable. I go, whoa, wait. Over 40%, the largest population in this country, in this state, is Hispanic. We are taxpayers. We're feeling comfortable with this. So, I mean, who are you really talking about? So it's when it starts affecting them, the people in power, when it starts kind of affecting their whitewashed little world of whatever it is, then they go, oh, we need to change this. But it's okay. It's okay. We're going to get through it, because I've always said this: if we were to have another ice age, if there to be, some sort of horrific Holocaust all over the world, if disaster is going to strike and mankind is on the verge of being lost, there's 2 things I know will survive. That's going to be cockroaches and Latinos. We will make it through freaking anything.
Get it? And we will become the giants. We already are, and this is so maddening, but how do we activate and get the sleeping giant to start moving?
Okay. And then let me correct you on, not correct. Let me bring this point. I've often heard people say we're like a sleeping giant. They go, no, we're not sleeping. We've just been busy working.
Yeah.
We're not sleeping. Nobody's sleeping over here. Yeah. But the thing is, you're right, Patrick. It needs to be, and I think one of the issues is Latino community. We come from about 22 different countries of origin. And part of our own problem is we want to wear our own flag on the forehead, our own forehead. I'm Mexicano, I'm Cubano, I'm El Salvadorian, I'm this, I'm that. It's kind of like, you know what? Yeah. You think the average white American can tell the difference between you? I mean, we can. I mean, a lot of us, and it's not so much what they look like once they open their mouth. You get a New York Puerto Rican, a Florida Cuban, and a California farm worker Mexican. You put them in the same room. coño, you're going to have some issues, man. Maybe they may not even understand each other. But because of the vast amount of countries of origin we come from and the different type of, we're bound together by a language, and sometimes even that language gets a little crazy because as you will know, you start get a Puerto Rican that's excited or a Cuban, and they're going to be going 100 miles an hour and going, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's kind of crazy. So we need to, and that's the reason for this leadership class is to have discussions like this. How can we focus in on our similarities instead of pointing out our differences to increase a common goal for everybody? John F. Kennedy said in one of his speeches, he wasn't the originator of this quote, but it's a good quote. I think if I remember correctly, a rising tide lifts all boats. And so as far as I'm concerned, I'm trying to help, and my work that I do is trying to get the Latino community to be that rising tide to help all boats, not only just the Latino community, but everybody for a better way of life, for a better quality of life, in that if we're not working together, then we're working against each other. And we should look for that win-win instead of a win-lose. We don't have to feel good about ourselves by putting our boot on somebody else's neck.
Man.
Bring it. Viva!
Yeah.
Viva!
Now, you are a fellow podcaster as well.
Yes,
I know
I am.
you've been talking to, So what made you want to launch Latino Business Report, and tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the question. During the pandemic, I was kind of bored. I used to do speaking engagements all the time. Master of Ceremony speaking engagements. In fact, I have one tomorrow. I haven't prepared for, but we'll figure it out. Got a lot of stuff, and then pandemic just kind of locked down. I got bored. Then I started seeing these or hearing about these podcasts, and I checked some of them out, and I go, people listen to that crap? I mean, these people are idiots. And then I heard, and I'm going, man. I said, you know what? I'm going to try one. So I said, I got up the courage. I said, let me try one, and it worked out. And I'd done some radio talk shows early on in life. In fact, Patrick did one with me a while back. That was really kind of fun.
501c3.
Yeah, it was 501 News or something like that. We did an entire episode on a little over an hour titled "Chickens Don't Have Fajitas," which is true because a fajita is a specific cut of meat that comes from a cow. So when you go into a restaurant, would you like beef fajitas or chicken fajitas? I'm going, oh my God, chickens don't have fajitas. That'd be like going, I'll take a chicken T-bone. It doesn't exist. And then I was at some North Dallas foo restaurant one time, and the waiter comes up. We have beef fajitas, we have chicken fajitas, and we have vegetarian fajitas. I'm going, oh my God, get me out of here, vegetarian. So as far as the podcast, I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And I felt comfortable because I felt comfortable in front of a mic because of previous training and experience. But at the same time, I knew a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I had a great experience. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 9 years. I was up there for a period of time. I was the president and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Prior to that, I was their chairman of the board. And so I had contacts all over the country of pretty influential people, a lot more influential than me. And I said, well, this would be kind of cool. We'll just, pick up the phone, get some of these folks on the podcast and start having some fun. So yeah, I got about 110, 112 episodes under my belt right now. I've been kind of lazy. I got to get back into it, but I'm just not lazy. I've been busy with other stuff. Yeah. So we're doing that, but I've had some fun. I've had some great opportunities in interviewing some very interesting people. One of the guys I just enjoyed interviewing a lot was Luis Guzman, the actor. Luis Guzman, from Wednesday, the Addams Family version. He plays the dad. He plays Gomez, and of course he's been in everything. I mean, this guy has definitely a character. And we were talking. I go, so Luis, where do you live? He goes, I live in Vermont. I go, what? So what the hell is a New York Puerto Rican doing from the Bronx living in Vermont? I go, are you living up there next to Bob Newhart or what? He goes, oh no, dude, man, nobody knows where I live. Just the post office, FedEx, and UPS. But he's kind of a Renaissance guy. I mean, he goes, well, I chop wood, I gather honey, I raise bees, I do all this stuff. I'm going, who would have thunk it? But then I get some very inspiring people, some high profile people, some folks that are inspirational stories that just kind of blow your mind. He's a friend. I met him when I was in Washington, D.C. His name is Oli Cantos. Oli, give a shout out to him. He had the courage. He's a single male, but he saw a situation in South America that he could not pass up. He came across triplets. They were boys, they were triplets, and they were blind. And they were kind of shut-ins because they were picked on in school. They really weren't learning the way they should have. The mom, lower, socioeconomic level, poverty level, the kids just weren't going anywhere. So he adopted the triplets. Okay?
Wow.
And then to make it more interesting, Oli is blind himself. So you have a blind man, adopting three or the triplets and brought them to the U.S. to raise them as his own. And he lives out in California now. He's actually a city council member at some city out there. And Oli, when I met him, he was with under the Bush administration. The second one, he was so high up in there that one more pay grade higher, and he needed Secret Service with him. I mean, the guy was really cool. But blind, but not. He was just super guy. I would mess with him. He would come over to my apartment. We would talk, watch and listen to a little TV, and then I'd be mean and move his cane. And when he was trying to leave, where's my cane? I go, what? You didn't come in with a cane, and just messing with him. But we would set up speaking engagements, and I'd introduce him, this is Oli Cantos, give his background, his story. And then say, yeah. And we became real good friends in D.C. because he was my, when we go out, he was my designated driver. And Oli would play along with it. Yep. Drove him around, got him around the city. But and this is something about Oli. He called me up one time all excited. He goes, Jared, guess what? I go, what? He says, I did it. I go, what dude, what did you do? What are you talking about? And he says, I'm now in the United States Coast Guard. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I'm an officer in the Coast Guard. I go, stop. How? He goes, well, I've always was kind of interested. And I go, oh, do you even know how to swim? Well, that doesn't matter. They didn't give me a swimming test. And I'm going, but there was nothing in the rules that say you had to have your sight to be a member or to join. So I filled out all the paperwork. I pursued it, and I got in. I go, well, where do they have you working? He says, I'm in the JAG office. I'm a lawyer for the United States Coast Guard because he's a lawyer by trade. And I'm going, okay, but that's Oli's thinking. And he just goes like, hey, being in the Coast Guard would be cool. I think he saw that movie, Guardian or something with he got excited and says, yep, I'm going to be in the Coast Guard. So, he sent me a selfie of him in his little Coast Guard uniform, and his little rank and epaulets and all that. So, then when he went out to California, he said, I want to run for city council. I go, okay. But truly a wonderful individual. He was blind since birth. Super guy. And just one of these guys that looks at life instead of, hey, life gave me a raw deal. He goes, hey, it is what it is. So let me overcome it and live life to the fullest. So those are the type of stories you're going to hear on the podcast called Latino Business Report. Yes, we do have business issues in there, but a lot of it's about people and inspirational stories. You can find the Latino Business Report anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, such as this one, or you can also go to latinobusinessreport.com, where you can find our entire library of episodes. We're also on YouTube, but it's audio only, but the bulk of all the episodes are there as well. So thank you for the question, Diana, but yeah, I've kind of had fun doing with it. I've had fun doing it, and I've gotten some very interesting guests on the podcast, and have made some good friends as well.
Do you get a lot of trolls that kind of say stuff about it?
You have to have a lot of trolls. Come on.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, if they're not talking about you, you're not doing anything. So, I get the trolls. I get people wanting to argue. I want people, it's like, fine.
That's awesome.
People, why don't you delete them? I go, well, one, I don't delete it because I don't want them to give them the satisfaction to know that it actually affected me. Mm-hmm. Second is I've usually, in most cases, if people start giving me a hard time, the people that are on my side or do agree with me, they rip them a new one. They just go on. Somebody called me a name on my own wall was bashing me, and somebody goes, "How dare you talk to JR like that?" Blah blah blah, and they just went loose, and I'm sitting back, eating popcorn, watching the entertainment, getting hits on my site, and I'm going, "Okay, whatever, dude, whatever." But I used to a lot more just post stuff to be controversial. They go, "Jerry, you're such a rabble rouser. You're just looking for trouble." No, I'm not looking for trouble. I just keep in mind it's the agitator in the washing machine that gets the clothes clean.
Mm.
So if we need to agitate a little bit, let's talk about it. Let's stir it up and see what comes out. So the podcast has been fun. You can catch. I usually drop new episodes on Tuesdays, and I was doing them once a week. I'm a little behind, but the last episode I did was pretty cool. I interviewed a Austin Police Department detective in the human trafficking unit, and we talked about human trafficking.
Wow.
And some of the things that are going on there. I've also one of my favorite episodes is we interviewed her several times. Personal friend Tina Cordova out of New Mexico. She is a staunch advocate and for the Manhattan Project. She lives in New Mexico, and her family lived relatively close. And so what she does, she started a nonprofit in New Mexico called the Downwinders, and they are trying to bring attention to this travesty of the very first nuclear test explosion in New Mexico, in that people were living, 25, 30 miles away, and they didn't even evacuate them. They didn't even know what to expect. So we're talking like 80 years later, the United States government still has not acknowledged what they've done to those people that lived in that area. And since over the past 80 years, you've seen generation of people with cancer from the radiation fallout. And plutonium, they used 13 pounds of plutonium to do the test. Only 3 pounds of it actually fused. You have all the other stuff up in the air. And plutonium's half-life, with the half-life of plutonium, it's about 7,000 generations before it finally dissipates, out of the atmosphere. Wow. But every year they go out and they not protest, but they hold signs up to make people aware. And they've been advocating the issue with Congress, to get Congress to acknowledge what they've done so they can do something to help. Because in Nevada and some of the other places, the government has set up testing centers, cancer screenings, mammograms, things that help people. But at ground zero, they've done nothing. And one of the politicians in the interview we talked about, one of the politicians was asked, why aren't you guys study this? He goes, well, the problem is, what if we actually find something? It's kind of like, then they're going to have to take action. Then it's going to cost money. It's going to have to do all this. They've also done a documentary on it. It was a wonderful documentary. It's won all kinds of awards at film festivals. But that's a very, very interesting story. How when Oppenheimer goes, and what they do is kind of like, it's not an anti, but it's the other side of the coin. Okay, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. It's desolate. No, there was people living there. There was Mexicans and indigenous people, and that whole city they built out there, for the Manhattan Project. Who the hell do you think built that city? It wasn't their scientists. They brought in Latinos. They brought in local labor. Who cooked the meals? Who did the cleaning? Who did everything out there? But yet, when right before the testing, they got their families out of there. That didn't say jack to everybody that had been working there. And as a result, a lot of them died. And like I said, we're now looking at 5 generations of cancer now.
Wow.
Out there in New Mexico, it's not in that area. It's not if you get cancer; it's when you get cancer. And so these are stories that we like to highlight on Latino Business Report, just to talk about some of the things and just bring shed a little bit more light on what's really happening out there. Because it's not like I don't work for a corporation. I don't have, kind of my own boss in many respects. And oh hell, I'm too old. I'm going to say what I'm going to say anyway. Yeah. And sometimes just putting it out there is the thing to do. And there's a lot of folks that just need to know this, and then hopefully they'll get engaged, involved, and ready to pick up the phone or write a letter or hold a sign or go give testimony someplace at a public hearing.
Man, Amazing, Jared.
So it's been fun. It's been a fun journey. It's been a fun journey, and I'm probably the hardest working lazy person you know. I there are a lot of things I don't like to do, and I'll try to avoid them. But at the same time, if I have a passion for it, I'll just put in whatever it takes to get the job done.
Yeah. Man.
And then to find great individuals and bring them along with me. Kind of like, I have a vision, but it's mine. But if I can share that vision with somebody else, and they see it, and they share it with somebody else, and before long you have a group, and then you have a movement. And we just have a lot of things to do. My dad used to give me a hard time. He said, "Mijo, why are you even bothering? No, it's not going to change." I go, "Well, Dad, it may not, but I got to try." And so you just keep hammering away, just chip away, and eventually something's going to happen. It's all going to come together, and we'll get this thing figured out. But in the meantime, there's plenty of problems to deal with. From the White House to local politics to your local dog catcher, and our country, especially Texas, is filled with history of things that have gone on. Some negative incidents, or tragic, horrific incidents that have happened to people of color, especially Mexican Americans. That history is there, but you got to look for it, or now it's trying to be whitewashed.
There's
Yes, sir.
this part that you're talking about that it keeps resonating with me. It was a good friend of ours named Lee from Diane and I's monster job that we used to be there for years.
Yeah.
The last thing we had talked about, where you just talked about. I'm just now learning about this thing where, and please correct me if I'm wrong, which I know you will. If a person maintains a land for, don't quote me on this. It's I think it's 7 years, and you don't know anything about it, they can take over your land. I think this is what that is, and in California, it's still going on where people's land was just taking over because of this law. Is this?
Yeah, there's something. I'm not an attorney. Don't pretend to be one. But I'll get you out of this timeshare. No, there is some law like that. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of not a squatter type thing. But if a property is abandoned and somebody comes in and takes up residence there, they can then legally it's theirs. But that's one of those weird little things. I'm not sure. I've heard of it before. I'm not that familiar with California law. I'm more familiar with things going on in Texas. But yeah, I mean that is a thing. And when it comes to stealing land, I mean that's been going on, since the beginning. One of the things I'm kind of mixed feelings about. I can actually trace my family roots to 1710, where one side of the family came over from Portugal, Spain area. They came down into Mexico. Then they migrated up and they established a homestead and a ranch in what's now South Texas, but at the time northern Mexico. We actually had deeds we had original Spanish land grants from Spain because everything was controlled by Spain, which showed that we owned the property. Then comes a war, and we're no longer ranchers and landowners, and we become cattle thieves and squatters.
Yeah.
And we lost the land. It's kind of a family joke that, our family once owned, which is most of downtown Brownsville, but, we'll never see it again. But that happened so many times, especially, all the Latino families, all the Mexican families that were in northern Mexico, and then after the war, and then the lines were drawn, and then you're on the other side of the border, and you were then considered a foreigner. It's amazing. You're there all your life. You own property, you own land. You're a person of prestige, and then boom, next day you're just kind of like, hey, you don't belong here anymore. This is our country now.
Yeah,
we stole it fair and square, so you are out. But there's cases like that all through history, and then especially in Texas history. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers, an elite squad But actually, the Texas Rangers started off as a bunch of thugs that were hired by the cattle barons to protect their cattle. And history shows this. It's written. It's documented. Where for grins, the Texas Rangers would be out on the prairie or the trail or whatever, get a little bored, and start using Mexicans as target practice, just shooting them, killing them, laughing about it, move on. They're just Mexicans, no big deal. In the early Texas census, they would count men, they'd count women, count cattle, but they wouldn't count the Mexicans because they didn't even matter. Even though they were here first, and after World War II, what's called Operation Wetback, when there was a roundup of what they're proposing today, of the Bracero program brought a lot of Mexican labor into the U.S. by invitation of the U.S. to fill some of the jobs during World War II when all the young men were in Europe fighting. But when they came back, they said, we got too many workers. So they started rounding up Mexicans and shipping them back into the interior of Mexico. But what they didn't realize, or did realize, didn't care, they were also rounding up Mexican Americans, U.S. citizens, never even bothered asking for their papers or explanation. You you fit the profile, so we're going to throw you in a cattle car and we're going to ship you deep in the interior of Mexico and don't come back. So there's just story after story of families being separated, people just being around. And I go, no, I'm an American citizen. I'm an American citizen. It's kind of like, yeah, right. But, you get some little National Guardsman out of Tennessee, like he's going to be able to tell the difference between a Mexican American and a Mexican national. I mean, it's difficult enough nowadays, but back then they didn't care. They just had a mandate: get anybody that looked Mexican and round them up and ship them out.
Oh, man.
So
Crazy.
There's story after story, and that's another thing for this Latino leadership class. That we're going to be learning about some of those stories and getting some firsthand accounts from some of the people that were actually there and lived it.
Man.
Wonderful. And I know that we're coming up at time. I did want to ask you one last final question to close out. What final words or guidance would you offer to the younger generations, our young professionals, even kids that because you touched on something that really touched me, was when you said that you were defined, well, at the time, like a high at-risk child. What words of wisdom or guidance, and in particular, I want you to focus like more on the underrepresented backgrounds, people,
Right. Well, thank you for that. Let me answer that question by just giving you a little anecdotal story here. I was a freshman in high school, and it was about a month or two into the first semester, and it's like, oh, I'm in high school now. I made it. I get called to the office, and the counselors pull me in, and they said, JR, sweetie, keep in mind, this is 1970s, and so things are a different time. You filled out the wrong paperwork, honey. I go, what? You filled out the wrong paperwork. See, you fill out the paperwork for college-bound students. I goes, you need to fill out this other paperwork. This will see what your interests are for vocational training.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, no, I got the paper. I filled out the paperwork. And they go, no, you don't understand. Because my last name was Gonzales, and I was Mexican at the time, or I still am, I think. Yeah. They said no, and this is, I remember it so clearly. This is the way it was explained to me. You see, sweetie, one of these days, if you're fortunate enough to finish high school, and then you move on, and you're gonna need a job, because you may get married, you may have kids, and you're gonna need to support your family. So you're gonna have to have a skill. So we have auto mechanics, we have woodwork, we have masonry work. We got some of these other things. Which one would you like to do so you're able to live a prosperous life and support your family in the future? Wow. And I go, no, I'm college bound, because remember, it was never a choice if I was going to college, it's when I was going to college.
Right.
And so there was a big stink. I mentioned it to my mother, and my mother, who's actually a teacher, an educator herself, had to come up to the school. Give it once. How embarrassing, your mother coming up to the school. And when the counselors recognized or found out that my mom was a teacher, well, it was a whole different attitude. And so I filled it out. And then about my senior year, they would call me. Jerry, you haven't been to the office for guidance from us for your college career. And I'm going, lady, I'm not going to take guidance from you at all. I'm gonna go with where I want to go because I didn't like them. I didn't trust them. That left a bad taste in my mouth just because my last name was Gonzales. That automatically they assumed that I was going to go to vocational training, and actually fought me for wanting to go to college. So I guess to answer your question, what I have is. Everybody's an individual. Be true to yourself. Find out what you want to do in life, and don't be afraid to pursue it. But at the same respect, always know who you are and where you came from. Do not try to pose or be somebody that you're not. It is so important to know your roots, know where you came from, be proud of it, because every culture, everybody has something to offer, and utilize what people look as a disadvantage. Utilize it to your advantage. Like I did when I was feeling kind of low, ready to quit. I realized, hey, I already spoke Spanish. I'm already brown, so shit. I just placed out of a whole lot of stuff right there. Have the courage. Get a good support system. Find other people that believe in you, and take that journey and take it together, because you know what? Nobody can do it on their own. They're going to have to depend on other people, and make sure that the people that you depend on share your compassion, share your vision. And there's one thing my dad he used to tell me when I was younger. He says, "Mijo, the way to be successful is surround yourself with people smarter than you." And didn't quite understand it, but yeah, it's kind of like who you surround yourself with. And then he also used to tell me, it's unfortunate, but you're probably going to have to work. You're probably going to have to run twice as fast just to stay even with the other person. He didn't spell it out for me, but recognizing in the world that we're in as a person of color, as a minority, in not all, but in some circles, you have to prove yourself over and over and over and be better than the next person just for equal consideration, because you're already going into it with a flaw. So, advice: don't believe everything. Don't take to heart what people say if it's negative. Stay positive. Follow your dream. Have a passion for something. Chase that passion. Get good people around you. Remember your roots, and do not ever let anybody tell you that you're not worth it or you can't do it, because you can.
I love that.
Snaps.
That is wonderful.
Snaps.
Ooh, snaps. Yes.
When are you going to run for mayor of Austin, JR? When are you going to be our new governor? Get Abbott out of there.
It's kind of like, why would I want to pigeonhole myself to one state? I mean, I got the whole world out there, man. I got the whole world. I mean,
you can help Texas secede, I guess.
I've stood on the Great Wall of China 13 times. I've been a lot of places. I love it. But there's, to your point, Patrick, I've been asked a lot of times, but sometimes I can think I can be even more influential on the outside, being the agitator, stirring the pot, than I can being pigeonholed into a district or a geographical area. But who knows? I never say never. Maybe one day, but running for office, and you got to fill out reports, and people look at you all the time, and you got to be nice to people you don't want to be nice to. Right now, I'm just, if I like you, I'm nice. If I don't like you, you'll know it. So, what the heck? I'm not running for anything. Yeah, I cut you off. What was your question?
Oh, no, I was just about to say, so do I hear maybe you're going to be running for president in the future? To clean up this mess?
I'm going to bite my tongue. There's so many things I can say about that right now. No.
That's for the after hours episode.
Yeah, I really don't have any plans for that. But at the same respect, I encourage people out there, do not be afraid to run for office, because that's the way this whole democracy was set up. And let me close with this point. This country, the United States of America, is just under 250 years old. We're still an experiment in this thing we call democracy. We don't even know if it's going to work. You look at us compared to every other country in the world that's been there for centuries. They've been tested, they're tried, they're true, but our system of government is still an experiment. And it can easily fail. It can implode on itself. And that's why it's important for everybody to have a voice, to speak up, not to be afraid of power. Speak to that power, because you know what? Those people in power, they work for us. We employ them. We vote for them. We employ them. We pay their salaries through taxes. So don't be afraid, and make sure that your voice is heard and that you go out there and every time there's an election, vote. Because I tell people, if you didn't vote, I don't want to hear it. Quit your bitching. It's the people that vote, that get involved and get civically engaged, and don't do it for yourself, but do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your kids, do it for your future generations, because we need to make sure that this thing we call democracy is still intact and it doesn't get ran over. And right now, we're at a very critical time in our country's history. It's going to be interesting, and I just tell people politely, as they say, Jared, what do you think? What do you think of this? And to avoid a political discussion, I just smile and go, it's an interesting time that we live in. Let's see what happens. So I just close with, it's an interesting time we live in, but please, folks, if you're listening and you're so inclined, make it more interesting. Roll up your sleeves, get engaged, get civically engaged, volunteer for a campaign, run for office, do something. Just don't sit back and complain, because you know what? Doesn't do a damn bit of good.
Yeah. Wow.
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Wow.
So we've talked for a while here. So.
We have. Thank
Join
you so
Leadership
much.
Day Huts. Join it. Good job. You joined, Deanna?
Yes, I did.
Cool.
I have to, but I'm gonna admit, I joined on an impulse, so I have to look at a little bit more stuff. But yeah, but I was like, you know what, I got to get this application done. Kind of like when I was doing the grant proposals. You know how I was doing pulling the midnight oil, burning the midnight oil. That was me.
Yeah, it was. Man.
Well,
as scary as JR is, he's a good man. I'll vouch for him still. So,
Patrick, coming from you, you have no idea what that actually means to me.
See, we go back.
Yeah, back in
Jason's reading between the lines. Okay, what did he really say?
No, because I think the last time I saw you, I kind of shared this story with them. But the last time I think I saw you was we had picked up a representative or something, and I took y'all downtown to a lounge. I drop y'all off at the door. I go park, and as soon as I walk in, I see one of my psycho exes. So I took off, and I was like, "You're gonna have to find your own ride home, JR." So I think that was one of the last times or the TAMACC incident.
That's before Uber became popular. Yeah, Patrick, so much for a designated driver. He just drops me off and leaves me.
1 star.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to check out and listen to more of your podcast, JR, because I had no idea, man. I mean, you're on the path of what I'm learning today. It's beautiful, man, to hear and talk about your passions about the country and our culture. So, mad respect.
Well, thank you very much. And you know what? I don't do it alone. I got a lot of good people around me, and it's working with people. Thank you for giving me this this platform and having me on as a guest. It really means a lot to me. In that, like I said, I'm just one person, but I do what I can. And if I can motivate and bring others along, well, you know what? Then we got a team.
There we go.
And then we can make it happen. So till then, so all you guys, life and in between, thank you very much for having me. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be a guest on your podcast, and I look forward to listening to it, and so I can actually remember what I said.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe.
All right, cool deal. Awesome.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.